everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Planting Seeds. Yet again, you are here with Chad and Bree.
Hello. This is actually going to be our last part of our conversation about slavery and our opinion on what we feel is the truth about slavery. So we're just going to go ahead and get right on into it. This is going to be the part that I was going to speak on as far as whether or not I believe we possibly have already received reparations.
Right, and the overall discussion about African Americans or blacks not receiving their reparations.
So pretty much since I can remember, since my childhood, I've always heard the argument of whether or not African Americans, black people, deserve, reparations for the historical treatment, black people, slavery, mainly, but, I'm sure we've been slighted in other, ways as well. So for those of you who do not know what reparations are, we're going to go ahead and just
talk about that and just explain what reparations are to begin with. Reparations are the act of making amends, offering expiation, or giving satisfaction for a wrong or injury. So basically trying to make something right.
Right. So right and a wrong. And obviously if we're speaking on giving African Americans or black people reparations, then we're speaking on the entire race. So obviously that means that there had to have been something definite wrong there, not like, this person stole from them, so I have to make amends by, replacing that item or paying back the value of
right.
that. You can't put a value on, years and years of slavery and torture and
confinement, beating and all of that.
So you can't put a value on it, but they try to put a value and try to make it right some type of way. So that's pretty much what reparations are. So I'm going to go ahead and list over, highlight some times that the U.S. has actually given out reparations.
So listen to this. There's several reparations that he's going to go over as far as what the government has given to certain, nationalities or certain ethnicities.
I'll read half of them, then I'll let you read half. But before I do read that, just in case you all wanted to know my personal opinion on whether or not we should receive them or deserve them, absolutely. Why not? Why shouldn't we? I mean, that should be a rhetorical question at the end of the day. I mean, everyone should be able to answer that question like that. If you, even their account of history, of how we were treated,
exactly.
I mean, it's black and white.
Even the account that they fess up to, and pretty much is what they fess up to, it's shown what they've done wrong.
Yeah, so why wouldn't we argue that? As a race, why wouldn't we argue that? Why wouldn't we bring it up every year? Because what I'm about to go over should tell you why we feel we have an argument in it. So, 1971, around $1 billion plus 44 million acres of land was settled to the Alaska Native. And all of this would be by the U.S. 1980, 81 million. Claimants of Oregon, I'm not sure what that means.
But it was a reparation given in the amount of $81 million, so it had been something bad.
1980, 105 million was given to the Sioux of South Dakota for seizure of the land. Now I know that's Indian tribe. That's SIOUX. Next one, 1985, 12.3 million to the Seminoles of Florida, which is also another Indian tribe.
Yep. Also, just to continue, in 1985 as well, there was 31 million given to the Chippewas of Wisconsin, which sounds like an Indian tribe as well. And then the next year, in 1986, 32 million per the 1836 treaty, Ottawas of Michigan was given as well. So it sounds like a lot of Indian tribes or native tribes, they're giving these reparations.
Yeah, this particular one, it sounds like they're enforcing something of a treaty that's spoken of back in 1836, a treaty that they had with the Ottawas of Michigan. And I'm not, I guess they didn't fulfill the treaty back then, so this was them, I guess, giving 32 million because I guess they didn't feel the treaty from 1836. Otherwise, why would you be revisiting
I
it if you
guess.
did the right thing back then?
I wish they could answer that. That's a good question. And lastly, what we want to touch on as far as reparations that were given was in 1988, Civil Liberties Act of 1988. President Ronald Reagan signed a bill providing 1.2 billion, which was 20,000 per person, and an apology to each of the approximately 60,000 living Japanese Americans who had been interned during World War II. Additionally, 12,000 of an apology were given to 450 Unangans.
Yeah,
Not sure what Unangans are, but they were given.
I'm more than sure it probably was dealing with another, particular race from another region or another country that I guess the U.S. also interned them during World War II.
Yep, and they're getting some sort of reparations and apologies as well. So good for them, everyone. But it seems
And 6.4 million trust fund was created for their communities.
That's a lot of money, y'all. That's a shit ton of money. It's millions and millions of dollars that they're giving.
Yeah, so that's billions. So that just
Billions.
just 1.2 billion alone was given to the Japanese Americans, and then 12 no, that's 12,000. Yeah, $12,000 and an apology was given to the Unang. I'm not sure.
Yep,
what that
they were given a
was.
little amount, but they must
And
have been
then
done wrong.
6.4 million trust fund was created for their community. So at the end of the day, we see throughout American history how American, when they feel like they have, done a particular, race wrong or whatnot, they at least try to right their wrong by some type of compensation of money, land, and or apology, something. So,
It's like you can keep your apology, just give me the money.
right, at the end of the day, you can't, really, an apology, you may as well, like, it's dumb to apologize.
It's dumb to apologize.
Just give the money
It's a slap
or
in
the
the
land
face.
or whatever you're going to give, but leave the apology out of it. At the end of the day, we know that apology is not sincere. It's just words written that probably a publicist told you that it's probably good to throw an apology in there as well.
For sure.
So if you could, so back to my opinion on whether or not I think we deserve them. Yes, I absolutely do. If you can
100%.
explain why every other, race have received some form of reparations.
And one particular race, within that race, the different tribes receive so many different reparations in so many different years. So I mean, it's insane.
Obviously, someone's missing from that list, and it's clear, who's missing from it. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, it's clear that Black people, African Americans, have suffered the most. Even if you want to compare it to, the Holocaust, we're talking about hundreds of years of slavery. They ain't go through that for no hundreds of years or
Right. It
anything
was
like that.
what, a 5 to 10
Yeah,
year span?
and in my opinion, that's like the next worst next to slavery or up there or whatnot. So we're talking about hundreds of years of mistreatment. Clear. The narrative is out there. We learn about it in school, even based on their narrative. Hundreds of years of mistreatment, and they're not. And we're not on the list. We're not on the list. In 2019, still screaming and begging for reparations. And what the society thinks is that people are greedy, that Black folks just want money at the end of the day.
They want a handout.
And want a handout. It looked like everyone else received money and land. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to just do what the hell y'all did for everyone else, money and land. And hell yeah, we will be satisfied, because at the end of the day, even if y'all want to say, well, the money shouldn't directly, their communities as well as their descendants also are receiving, y'all don't understand the concept of being able to build wealth, build wealth and trickle that wealth down.
Yeah.
And then not just that, your descendants are also benefiting or whatnot. Like, think about if Indians and Japanese Americans are still somehow getting benefit from things that happened way back in the day, then doesn't that mean that their descendants are being benefited?
Yeah, they're definitely benefiting from it.
So why not? Like
Mhm.
I don't understand what the argument is about.
Like, why do they get? It's almost like special privilege at this point. It's like, how come they get, reprimanded for it and pay back for it, but we don't? So
Yeah, and so a lot of the slavery part one and the slavery part two, when we kind of broke that down and came to the conclusion that black people and African Americans are essentially Indians, Native Americans, all one and the same, Aboriginals, all one and the same.
right.
Thinking about all of that kind of had me, thinking about this as well, the reparation parts as well, because it's clear that a certain portion of Indians actually received it.
Right.
So it made me think, well, since for years and years and years they've been like hell bent on not providing reparations to black people or African Americans, and it made me think that maybe the real reason may tie into the truth that we think black people are Indians, and,
Right.
and the reason may simply be, hey, we already gave. They're not going to blatantly come out and say we already gave it to y'all, but the little 2% of the Indian population, the black of African American population, of the 2%, I feel like they received it, and the 98% who were technically like the slaves and all of that, those are now the African American black people who probably are never going to receive it. And I think is because in their eyes, they're like, we already gave it to y'all. We're not going to say we gave it to y'all, but essentially, if that's not the case, then tell me what the reason is. Why not?
Why not? Right. We can answer that question, make sense of it, then we wouldn't have to, look into other viewpoints and try to figure out why.
Right.
The answer is they've already given it to us. They've already shelled out billions of dollars to different tribes, but a lot of African Americans and blacks aren't a part of those tribes. They're not aware of their culture or their history. So
I want you to tell me if this makes sense to you. So the copper colored penny chart that we utilized in our past two episodes.
Yeah.
So referring back to that, the very top line where it's like the red tone copper, like that deep red tone copper. In my opinion, if we're going based on shades of Indians, I think that is the Indians that they separated from the rest of the copper colored Indians or whatnot.
Those are the ones who were allowed to remain Native Indians or Native Americans.
Right.
And receive those reparations.
And in my opinion, I think that the word is, you make sure you disassociate yourself with the rest of what was once your race, or else the land, the money, all of that will be, you ever heard of non-disclosure, agreements where people can't speak on things, and if they do it gets snatched back. I'm more than sure it's deep like that. I'm more than sure whatever agreement they have is deep. I want you to think about this. January 31st, 1865, slavery was abolished. So apparently it looked like they started off the year trying to do something positive.
Yeah. It's a new year, so we're gonna see what these people fall for, because at the end of the day, slavery really didn't end in 1865.
Right. So slavery abolished 1865. Slavery, black people, African Americans, 1865, no longer, right? Now, Native treaty responsibilities includes agreements dating back to the 1800s, which made the U.S. government the trustee for huge strips of tribal land. Okay? Which made the U.S. government the trustee for huge strips of tribal land.
Crazy.
The Department of Interior says it manages almost 56 million acres of land on behalf of the tribes and handles at least 100,000 leases of that land for a wide variety of uses, including housing, timber harvest, farming, livestock grazing, oil and gas extraction. So more than 250 tribes have some assets held in trust by the federal government.
So it's their assets, but they're not even in control of it.
Right. And I'm not going to reread that, but if you have to rewind it, please rewind it and listen to it and listen to every sentence and break it down. I want you to keep this in mind. This is dating back to the 1800s, right? They're making these treaty agreements and peace agreements with the Indians, right? With the Indians. in 1865, slavery was abolished. So you know what I think? I think early 1800s, they was going ahead and setting it up, splitting off the Indians there. Y'all we gonna give y'all this. Y'all got this land, y'all got that, but we're gonna be over it. This the non-disclosure shit. We're gonna be over it because if y'all go to opening y'all mouth, we're gonna snatch this shit from y'all. So by time that's early 1800s. So by time 1865 came around, they already saw years and years of those Indians possibly holding their word, not doing no dumb shit. And keep in mind, all of those places that we was listing off, they were specific. There was like of Michigan, of Florida, of this. So why were they in specific selected areas? You know, if you're free to roam, I'm more than sure they would have roamed this entire country.
Right.
So they were in selected areas, you know, when they made these treaty agreements. So now when the slaves are quote unquote free in 1865, I guarantee you by then, whatever deal they had made with that percentage of the Indians was stuck. Now that they probably we're going to be free and the rest of your people down the road. You disassociate yourself with them. You never knew them. They're African. They came from Africa. They're not kin to you. It only makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense because people would go for that.
You know what further make it make sense? Going by their narrative, they came and they slaughtered Indians. They put diseases on Indians. They stole land from Indians. So who is the last person the Indians is going to trust with all of their motherfucking 56 million acres of land? Who is the last people they're going to trust with the land?
Right.
Are you really going to trust the same people who stole your land, who killed? Are you really going to turn around and say, I'm putting all of my trust, I'm making you trustee of my 56 million acres of land, more than 250 tribes. You know, I'm making the U.S. government. I'm choosing the U.S. government to be my trustee over all of this. Please, the only reason the U.S. government is trustee over that, because if they would have ever opened their mouth since 1800 about whoa, it was way more of our race than this. We came in different shades, different tones. Matter of fact, majority of them people that they were slaving is also a bet. All of that stuff will be done. Think about it. They benefit so much from the casinos. They benefit so much from having their own privacy and not having the government involved in their stuff. Why wouldn't they just go with the narrative?
Yeah.
Who want to be back to being mistreated with the rest of the blacks?
They were strong, right? They were strong-armed, but they were kind of, they were forced to. You're right. Who wants to be mistreated?
Who
want
to go back to the bottom of the totem pole? For real.
Yeah.
Who wants to go to at least you have your own benefits.
Right.
You have so many benefits just for your tribe and yourself. Who wants to give all of that up and be treated like a black person? And you know what? That phrase is true. Black people get treated a certain way. You want to know how? We done saw so many videos within compilations on YouTube where we would hear white people scream out, "You're treating me like a black person," or "You're treating me like a nigger right now."
Yeah.
That's different white people, men, women. We done heard it several times. You're treating me like this. And most of the times is when they're dealing with police, and the police is not giving them their way.
Yeah.
And the narrative is, you're treating me like a black person. Ain't that shit crazy? Ain't that shit crazy?
I'm white. You should be treating me better. You should be treating me a different way.
It's crazy. And not just that. That goes to show you that they're conscious that black people get mistreated.
Oh yeah, everyone's conscious of that.
But to voice it, that goes to show you that it's blatant that black people get mistreated poorly. Because right now, I feel like you're treating me like a black, because typically I see white people get treated like this, or in my experience, white people get treated like this. And what I see is that black people tend to get treated this. And right now, I think I'm
you're being treated.
I think you're
treating me that way. Yeah. No, I mean, it makes so much sense. I mean, it makes sense, man. They're being strong-armed, and how can you blame them? So.
Yeah. So pretty much what I believe is that Give me 1 second. So that the 2% of the native race receive and still receive benefits, from that dating all the way back to the 1800s, and the other 98%, which is now referred to as African Americans, are blacks, not Indians or not natives,
Right.
not going to receive anything, and probably we never will. And they're not going to give us a direct answer to why not. It'll just be a runaround type of, conversation, merry-go-round. They'll probably answer that question with a question like, why do you think you receive it? Or why do you think you should receive it? Or something like that. But one, who is to answer that question anyway? Like, the government is just the umbrella. It's people within the government. So what individual do you go to that okays it or not? They're going to say, well, it has to be a vote involved. Whatever the case is going to be, whoever needs to answer that question, why we never hear a direct, blatant answer to why they haven't received it and why they're not going to receive, why we're not going to receive it or whatnot. The only thing that I could come up with is the reason why we're not receiving it, and the reason everyone else has received it is because our race has already received it.
Mm-hmm. Our race, as the Aboriginals or the Native Americans,
has already received it, and they're not going to cop out to say that y'all are part of that race.
Mm-hmm. They're going to have to shut out billions more dollars. You think they're going to really do that?
Not only would they have to shed out billion more dollars, then land is going to become a topic of conversation, and then the other 2% of the Indians is going to get highlighted of like, if this is true, how messed up is that?
It's going to get messy.
So the narrative of what we learned in school will always remain the narrative, but I promise you that is not. You will be a fool. You will be a plumb fool to think that any of that is true, even with your notion of just knowing how government works. There's no honest government out there, just period.
Yeah.
Point blank period. And we know how much of, black people, black history was, manipulated, scattered intentionally just to make it a whole big gray area of confusion.
Yeah, the government is not for the people. The government is for themselves and to control. Control your mind, control history, so they can control the future. So overall, that's what that is. Yeah.
So I got just another little twist to this reparations / Indian / Native thing.
Yeah.
So y'all might get a kick out of this. But guess who's reaping a lot of benefits now of like reparations, in addition to the natives who always receive them. Guess who else is receiving them now?
Who?
The great old Europeans then found their way to yeah, first of all, it's been in the news. It's in politics. One of I don't know what she was running for, but Trump even was calling her out. But she was trying to say but not just her. It's all within it now, to where you could clearly look at somebody and blonde hair, blue eyes, but yet they just have on Indian gear and somehow went and filled out paperwork for the benefits and made a claim to it and is receiving the claims. Like, I'm going to show so many pictures and people are going to be like, nah, I'm not buying that shit for 1 second. Not buying that shit for 1 second.
It would have to be verifiable somehow. They'd have to verify your bloodline and the authenticity of the nationality that you're trying to claim. I mean, if you walk up with blonde hair and blue eyes and just claim that you're Native American, when you can look at a Native American and tell that they're darker skinned and they have melanin in their skin. It's ridiculous.
So you're saying pretty much, how are they able to wiggle through? I got
How
it.
Does that happen?
Let me explain that for you. Refer back to the Webster's 1828 dictionary that defines the noun American.
Crazy.
A native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by Europeans, but now apply to the Europeans born in America. So that means
that's how they're wiggling through it. Yeah. So that's the wow. Okay. No, that makes
I bet you that
sense.
shit
That
makes
makes
sense
sense.
now.
That
I
makes
bet you that
sense.
shit makes sense.
That makes
Yeah.
sense because they're now considered the Aboriginals.
Right.
So if you're a
So they're
European born
native.
into
Then they're
America,
native. You know, Aboriginal essentially just means that you're native to that land, to
Right.
that country.
Right.
So the natives receive reparations and this and the other. So if you're now considered a native, wouldn't that mean? I'll tell you. I put it to you like this: if you went and got blood work done and DNA and this, that, and the other, and it came back that you had Indian in your blood, you would then be considered an Aboriginal. Right.
if I had any amount of Indian in my blood,
I'm just saying, if you went and did all that testing or whatever, but you would have to go do all of that testing because you can't just say you were born here and you receive it. But you know who can say I'm a native just because I was simply born here now? Europeans. And let me tell you what's gonna happen. You're gonna get enough Europeans in key positions. You're gonna get enough Europeans in key positions within the Native American, tribe, council, whatever, and eventually it's going to start weeding out, and there's going to be more Europeans than actual Native Americans or however you want to label them or whatever it's going to be. And then what's going to happen? All of the land is going to eventually probably get signed back. Something's going to happen.
The true history is going to be completely manipulated, and to a point where those stories can't even be passed down through the tribes or the generations of the true Native Americans. All that's going to be stripped away.
I'll put it to you like this: there's far more Europeans in the U.S. than the Native Americans. Yeah. That right there should tell you something. Just period. That right there should tell you something. Period. So eventually, those numbers of Europeans who are born in America, naturally you're born, then you are privileged to get and reaping those benefits.
Right.
All those Europeans that's born, you don't think if there's a benefit out there to be had that most people are going to try to attain that benefit?
Try to find a way to get that benefit, especially if it's a monthly stipend. You can, award.
Even if they learn that Native Americans, were Indians and they look like this, and they know I look nothing like that, but then they go look at the dictionary term and say, oh, any European born in America is considered, a native. You don't think they're gonna be like, well, shit, that's me. I know I'm not Indian, but I was born here.
So if they look at that definition, you're right. They're 100%
the 18, and I guarantee you, when it comes down to it, their proof is just simply showing a birth certificate, while your proof would have to be blood tests or something to show. Something to show. You can't just say I was born here, but they can.
Just by that pure definition that a human, another person, made, defined, and published to the world.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. And that was, I'll read it one more time. And this is American 1828 Webster's Dictionary. As a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the Europeans born in America. So that's crazy. So it's like we would have to jump through hoops and catch hell to try to make a state to claim some type of benefits based off of whatever, but they don't, and it shows because all the documentaries that we saw that shows like the fake Indians and the fake natives and all of that stuff pretty much aligns with this, because the only claim that they have to it was that they're born. They'll say that I'm native and I have Indian in they'll say that just to make a claim to it, but at the end of the day, the only documentation is that they're simply born in America. Because I don't even, if I'm just being honest, I don't think you could trace. I don't think science is that advanced where you could really genuinely trace.
Like your ancestry,
through your blood.
I know you come from your parents. Your parents come from different places. How do you track that?
To me, that's just not a logical. That's not a logical thought to me personally, and I know
agree.
A lot of people may just buy it because they're not a scientist or they're not into.
Or if they say it's what a scientist said, it's science. How could you? You know what I'm saying? Right. If they're saying that's what it is, how could you go against it?
Who are you to say? Who are you to say? But people need to learn how to have their own thought, learn how to have their own common sense, and break shit down. Like if people just really critically thought about a lot of things that occur.
Yeah.
Bruh.
And then, like, another thing is, how is there 2% of Native Americans? How does that even make sense? There's 2% of Aboriginals. This entire U.S. was once covered with them, and now today there's 2%.
Yeah,
the blacks and the African Americans are also a percentage of that.
It doesn't make sense, and it just doesn't make sense that they would be in seclude. Like, okay, I got something else for you.
Yeah.
The reparations that I listed off, that I read off, that they did give to the Indians, but it was specific to like the Seminoles of Florida. It was specific to so.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that they only made it right with certain tribes? If you were a tribe in Louisiana, or a tribe in Mississippi, or Alabama, or a tribe in Tennessee, or in South Dakota, or if you were a tribe there, then you didn't receive reparations because you wasn't a part of the Seminoles or a part of the Sioux, or
you were still Native American, but you had your own thing going on. You know?
Yeah, you may have had a different name to your tribe, and you lived in like I said, in South Dakota or something. Like, do you not qualify? Why weren't those? So what I'm saying is, why was it so specific versus just? You see how they have Japanese Americans?
Yeah.
They don't have they didn't break it down for that. They just said Japanese Americans. So they didn't just say Native Americans or Indians. They said of this tribe in this area, of this tribe in this area.
So why did they do that? Is a good question. Why do you think? Why do you guys think?
I'm telling you, it's because they wanted that selected. Yeah, that was the selected ones that was given, because they can't just generalize it and say all, because then that's when everybody.
No. They weren't about to do that. Now they were very strategic.
But they sure did for Japanese Americans, and they sure did for. I'm sure that the Jews, if there was any conversation
there's definitely
towards them.
some sort of reparations for the Jews that were affected in the Holocaust and their families or their descendants, but everyone but African Americans, or they were paid. They were paid as Native Americans. And
I'm telling you, man, money. Like I said, when you got people in power over you, it can make you shut up. It'll make you shut up, especially when they have so much power to put you back in a position that you don't want to be. Like,
you see someone else getting mistreated, you're not going to want to put yourself and your family, your kids and your wife in those shoes. You're going to say, no, let's just go ahead and sign this treaty.
And then you don't think they have that pressure? You don't think they have that pressure of not fucking up history, like not undoing hundreds of years of history, like saying, well, damn, our ancestors kind of went with the flow for this long. We can't be the ones to
Yeah, I'd have to go out and be that one. I'd have to go out with a bang. If I'm going to die anyways, I'm going to let it be known.
I know.
People are just going to probably think you're crazy, or
I would do it on
crazy person.
What I never understood is, so many truths to life I know people know. Even people who pass away. I never understand why they just don't blab.
I've never understood that either.
Like, right before
you're about to die.
Yeah, you know you're about to die. Like, just go on and open your mouth. Say who killed this person. Say who was responsible for this.
It's are you trying to make peace with God at that point? Don't you want to get all of your sins out, or make everything right at that point?
I don't know. I know a lot of people die with a lot of secrets. I know that much.
Yeah. They do. That's for sure. Well, we definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in today, allowing us to go in deeper.
If we made sense, comment. If we didn't make sense, comment.
If you have a different point of view, or if you have a different
we're just trying to make sense of why we haven't received it, and that's the only conclusion that we can draw from it.
Yeah.
This was our last episode on our slavery topic, so we'll be switching it up when you see us next time. So hope to see y'all next time.
Yeah. See you later.
Deuces.